with this great convulsion, cease thine aim, be more renowned. On wind is heard that battle still, the echo still resounds. Just like that ancient battle fought before Roman were found. In heaven and on earth alike, thy name acclaimed aloud. Whistle that was, whistle that was, whistle that was. We're knights of Mary, and it's to her that we sing. For her greater glory and the reign she'll bring. She's our queen and perfect mother. In her service we are brothers. She'll always be the center of our lives. And she'll always be the center of our lives. By her grace a lily blossomed in the night, and with her gaze began to shine with splendorous light, causing terror, fear, and hate to Satan and his cursed fate. And she'll always be the center of our lives, and she'll always be the center of our lives. Miss Lily cruel amidst the storm and put to shame the evil ones who fought so long against her name. This lily's name is TFP throughout the earth, spreading gloriously, and she'll always be the center of our lives, and she'll always be the center of our lives.
Welcome to your Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired.
We love God, we ought to be able to talk about Him.
Getting you started on your day.
With the latest in breaking news and information.
From the Vatican to the White House and everything in between.
It's serious, it's fun, it's your Catholic Drive Time.
Now here's your host, Joe McClain.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Good morning and welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. I'm Rudy Carlos, and I'm going to be your host for today and tomorrow. And I hope you had a fantastic weekend and that you sanctified the day yesterday, going to Mass, spending time with your family, doing things that would sanctify your state in life. And got a really awesome show today. I got a few surprises here for you, but first I want to say, from Joe, Adrian, and I, and the Guadalupe Radio Network, we are really, truly thankful for all of you calling in your pledges last week during our Fall Shareathon. You know, this radio apostolate is funded by your hard work and contributions for the good of souls. And a lot of you called in. I just want to say thank you so much for doing that. This week, however, we're back to our regularly scheduled programs, so don't adjust your radio. And as I mentioned today, we have a pretty jam-packed show. We got the full 2 hours here. We're going to have the Saint and the Gospel of the Day, breaking news and stories coming up shortly. And at 15 past the hour, we're going to have a discussion of whether artificial intelligence can produce art. That's going to be a fascinating read here. I have an article here from from Crisis Magazine. So that's going to be part of our What's Concerning Us segment at 15 past the hour. And at 35 past the hour, we're going to have Joe Pojman, who will be on to discuss some practical apologia tips. I know all of us have been there before, where, a pro-choicer will come in and try and stump us on some sort of little nuanced detail here. But he's going to come in and have some practical apologia tips to counteract the propaganda and myths that are being spread by so-called pro-choicers. For example, that pregnant women, and I'm talking about women, not birthing persons, who seek abortions are going to be persecuted as criminals, as well as the classic mental gymnastics. We've heard this one before, right? On whether the treatment of an ectopic pregnancy is actually an abortion. So Joe Pojman is going to join us shortly at 6:35 there. Now, to talk about this, we have the wise, the shrewd, the impeccable, the defender of life from West Virginia, Brent Haynes, who was voluntold to come in to help us while Joe's out canyoneering. Good morning.
Yeah, I started to look over my shoulder there at the beginning of that introduction. Good morning.
Good morning. How was your weekend, Brent?
Well, it was good, but aren't the weekends always too short?
Yeah. Isn't there a song about that?
You would know better than I.
Maybe. And back to our, as I said, back to our normal show. We have Adrian on the ones and twos. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning. Can you explain to me what the ones and twos are?
The ones and twos, okay, so it used to be, I was told this, I've never seen this personally, but there were one turntable and then two turntables, and I guess the DJ would put on the music on each turntable. I don't know how it worked, but I had a turntable at one point, because that's what the hipsters did back in 2010, but not anymore.
Yeah. Well, praise be to God. I had a great weekend. It was a very fruitful weekend. Went out to Katy, Texas, because they were having a this so-called church, the quote unquote disciples of Christ, are having a drag queen bingo night for all ages. Sounds
horrible.
And so we went out to pray outside their church, outside their so-called church, and our separated brethren, as some might say. But yeah, so we were out there praying yesterday after Mass, and then it was good. I'm glad we had a big crowd, which is very encouraging. Prayed the Rosary, prayed the Litany of the Holy Face, so it was good.
Ah, that's awesome. I love the Litany of Holy Face. Very good, very good. So, well, kick up your feet and get comfortable. Let's jump right into our show today by praying for your needs and for the conversion of sinners, as well as for Joe and his son's safe return. Let's pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Remember, O most gracious Virgin Mary, that never was it known that anyone who fled to thy protection, implored thy help, or sought thine intercession was left unaided. Inspired by this confidence, I fly unto thee, O Virgin of Virgins, my mother. To thee do I come, before thee I stand, sinful and sorrowful. O Mother of the Word incarnate, despise not my petitions, but in thy mercy hear and answer me. Amen. And now here's your breaking news for today. Thanks for tuning in to Catholic Drive Time. Today is Monday, September 19th, and here are your headlines this morning. Breitbart reports Martha's Vineyard residents begged for mass immigration until migrant flights arrived, and they said they have to move. The island, home to the nation's wealthiest and most well-connected, declared a humanitarian crisis, and Governor Charlie Baker swiftly deported the new arrivals sent over from Florida to a military base on Cape Cod. The islanders, who were outspoken proponents for immigration, let's just say, said Martha's Vineyard's business owners needed more foreign workers to fill summer jobs that were left open and unfilled in 2018. Rather than give illegal aliens jobs, some officials said the island could not house the new arrivals and did not have the infrastructure. A Breitbart News analysis, though, shows that Martha's Vineyard could house up to 6 million border crossers and illegal aliens. And the Epoch Times reports FBI makes 6,000 arrests and seizes firearms in summer-long operation. FBI agents arrested about 6,000 alleged violent criminals across the United States over the past 4 months and have seized more than 2,700 firearms and large quantities of fentanyl, the Bureau announced. Those operations were carried out in California, Texas, Hawaii, Illinois, New Mexico, Washington, Pennsylvania, and Puerto Rico. The average murder rate across the United States hit 6.9 murders per 100,000 people in 2021, or the highest figure that it's been in more than 20 years. Drug overdose deaths at the same time have spiked to more than 107,000 nationwide in 2021, setting an all-time record according to federal data. Ground News reports Suez Canal Authority to raise transit fees by 15% in 2023. Egypt says it will increase transit fees for vessels including oil-laden tankers. The Suez Canal Authority said in a statement on Saturday that it will add a 15% tariff to the tankers carrying oil and petroleum products. About 10% of global trade flows through the Suez Canal, which is a major source of foreign currency to Egypt. Ground News also reports suits to save Confederate icons dropped in South Carolina. The American Heritage Association helped fund one of those lawsuits. It had been filed by descendants of John C. Calhoun, a former congressman. The association also filed a lawsuit opposing the removal of a Robert E. Lee Memorial Highway marker. The city made a deal with the South Carolina State Museum to take the statue of Calhoun. And those were your headline news this morning. God love you.
The saint of the day is Blessed John of Messias. He was born March 2nd, 1585 at Ribera del Fresno in Spain. And when he was very small, he was left as an orphan. He was adopted by a kindly uncle who set him about herding his sheep. The little boy was naturally pious and passed his spare time in saying the rosary. Our Lady and the Christ child appeared to him several times, and he was often visited by his patron, St. John the Evangelist, who once showed him a vision of heaven, telling him, "This is my country." In 1619, he embarked for the Indies, where many Spaniards were going, either to convert the natives or to seek a fortune. After a long and hazardous journey, he arrived in Lima. In 1622, he received the habit of a lay Dominican brother there. On the night of his profession, devils appeared to tempt and reproach him. He was attacked bodily, and although he was calling on Jesus, Mary, and Joseph for help, the demons continued what was to become 12 years of torture by actually throwing him from one cloister to another. John was appointed assistant to the porter and lived in the gatehouse. There, the poor came for food and the rich for advice. He became adept at begging for the poor and always managed to find enough for the more than 200 people who came daily for help. He had little use for the wealthy and curious and would sometimes baffle them by simply disappearing while they were looking at him. Rays of light streamed from the Blessed's face as he taught the catechism to the poor or prayed by himself in the gatehouse. He said an amazing number of rosaries and made no less than 20 daily visits to the Blessed Sacrament. He is said to have liberated more than 1 million souls in purgatory, many of whom came back while he was at prayer to thank him for his help. One day, a certain ship captain came to the gatehouse, asked to look around. John took him by the arm and led him directly to the crucifix, warning him to look well on it and think of his sins. Terrified, the captain fell to his knees, confessing that he was an apostate religious, 30 years away from the sacrament, and he begged for a priest. On another occasion, the brothers were building a flight of steps, and having measured a beam wrong, they were annoyed because it did not fit. John took the beam in his hands and stretched it to fit their needs. These and many other miracles led people to venerate him as a saint during his lifetime. His recreation was to talk of things of God and the other holy lay brother, Martin de Porres. At the time of his death, Our Lady, St. Dominic, and his patron St. John, and many other saints came to accompany him to heaven. They were seen by some of the brothers. He died September 16th, 1645 in Lima, Peru of natural causes, and was canonized in 1837 by Pope Gregory XVI. Blessed John of Messias, pray for us.
Man, I hate it when I measure twice, cut once, and it still doesn't fit. That's an incredible story. Thank you for that, Adrian. The gospel of the day comes from the book of Luke, chapter 8, verses 16 through 18. Jesus said to the crowd, "No one who lights a lamp conceals it with a vessel or sets it under a bed. Rather, he places it on a lampstand so that those who enter may see the light. For there is nothing hidden that will not become visible, and nothing secret that will not be known and come to light. Take care then how you hear. To anyone who has, more will be given, and from the one who has not, even what he seems to have will be taken away. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Haydock says, our Lord calls himself the lighted candle placed in the middle of the world. Christ was by nature God and by dispensation man, and thus not unlike a torch placed in the middle of a house. Does our Lord, seated in the soul of man, illumine all around him? But by the candlestick is understood the church, which he illumines by the refulgent rays of his divine word. Thus, according to St. Maximus, you are the light of the world, says the Lord in another gospel passage, but you are merely the candlestick which reflects the sublime light of our Lord. You should take care to remember this in your daily duties, diligently, as the first reading of the Mass says, to remember that as a candle, your entire life is to be consumed to bring about the Lord to all around you, at your work, with your family, to your wife, to your children. Take care to guard that your light, which our blessed Lord gives us to be the face of Christ, take care that to guard that light is what I'm trying to say, which our blessed Lord has given us, so that we can be the face of Christ to our neighbors. By these expressions, Jesus induces his audience to be very diligent and quite alive in the momentous affair of salvation, affirming them that they are placed in the public view of the whole world, according to St. Chrysostom. Continuing, here he exhorts the audience to attend what he was about to deliver and to apply themselves with all their attention to the divine word, for who has a desire of hearing the word shall also receive the grace and power of understanding it. But the man who has no desire of hearing it, though from his learning he might expect to understand it, shall not understand it, because he does not willingly attend to the divine admonitions. Hence it is said, whosoever hath, to him also shall be given. Thus, Venerable Bede, remember, you are the light of the world. Remember that every single day and every single thing that you do, however menial it is, remember that you are the light of the world and that you are the face of Christ, the hands of Christ, the feet of Christ. To all of those people around you, do every duty with excellence. And remember that everybody is probably going to experience Christ through you. How many people, how many atheists there are in the world that have not experienced Christ, but they will through you. Well, that's going to do the gospel and the saint of the day. After this short break, we're going to have a discussion on, can artificial intelligence produce art? Is it really producing art? Is this really something worth considering to be art? Stay tuned.
Told that so long as sexual activity is performed between consenting adults, there's nothing morally wrong with what's done. Is this a reasonable way of morally evaluating sexual behavior? I don't think so, and here's why. First, such reasoning justifies disturbing acts like that of Orman Maivis, who butchered and ate a willing victim that responded to an advertisement placed on the internet. I don't think we want to say consensual cannibalism is okay. Second, the assertion arbitrarily picks consent as the only aspect of nature's design for sex as having any moral significance. If we must reverence nature's design for consensual sex, then why is it okay to not reverence nature's design for procreation? If it's okay to reject one, well, then it's okay to reject the other. So rather than reverencing consensual sex, this argument undermines it. I'm Carlo Broussard with the ready reason for Catholic Answers, Catholic.com.
Men, it's time. Participate in the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th, 11:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. in Boston. There is a man connected to every abortion. Men are a big part of the problem, and it's time for all men to take responsibility and be a big part of the solution. All men of goodwill are invited to participate in the march, and everyone else is needed to show up for the rally beginning at 2 p.m. outside of the State House. For more information, go to themensmarch.com and spread the word.
Glory to God. Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time. Rudy Carlos here, filling in for Joe McLean. Please keep them in your prayers, as well as his sons. They're canyoneering today in the Grand Canyon, and sounds like a really good time. I haven't been to the Grand Canyon in 2 years. Oh, it was incredible. One of the greatest things you can ever witness with your eyes. It's just the glory of God is there. It's just so magnificent. But anyway, do keep them in your prayers. And this segment is, as Joe calls it, the What's Concerning Us segment. And we discuss things that are concerning us and that may concern you as well. And today I have an article here from Crisis Magazine. The headline is, Can Artificial Intelligence Produce Art? It's written by Christopher J. Carter over at Crisis Magazine, if you want to look at it. And the story goes, the long and merciless advance of the machine has at times expanded the arts in odd ways. The Art Deco style of the earlier 20th century is a prime example of industry-shaping style, as the energy of industrial power began finding itself reflected in an art form fielding bold lines, strong figures, and precise geometric forms, all reminiscent of factories, steel, and material progress. As the world changed through advances in manufacturing and electronics, the arts attempted to incorporate these changes and left us with some stunningly beautiful works, from buildings such as the Empire State Building in 1931 and the Texanic Texas Centennial Exposition Complex of 1936, to the subtle sensationalism of paintings by Baroness Tamara de Lampica. Even devotional ends enjoyed a new look, with such framed works as Christ the Redeemer of 1931 and the Madonna della Strada Chapel in 1938, pointing man's mind not merely forward, but up. Continuing, he says, but today, industry, or man's place in that industry, is dropping faster than the HMS Hood. Recently, new developments in computer programs, commonly called artificial intelligence, have upset the arts. These programs allow people to give both visual and written input that in turn generates pictures. So just to give you an example, you can go on to there's a lot of them out there. I don't have one off the top of my mind, but you can go to these websites that actually feed the artificial intelligence whatever you type into it. So there's going to be a little text prompt, and you could type in, for example, some of them are more advanced than others, by the way, but you could type in, for example, a poodle with a skirt riding a surfboard, and the artificial intelligence will come up with a picture based off of your description. Continuing, he says, the quality of the pictures is generally high and would take hours or days to deliver through traditional means. This writer knows that such works are beyond his present ability, which I think is hilarious. And it would, here he not assured in other ways, be disheartening to know that computers can discharge an image in under a second that would take a man not only hours of effort but years of skill to attain. And I think that's the key moment here in this article, I think. He's talking about the convenience, the speed in which these artificial intelligences create an image in comparison to an actual traditional painter, for example. Continuing, he says, one may say that this is like the advent of Art Deco, and that the computer-generated art is but one more arrow in the quiver of the craft. In other words, it would be as if putting a different paintbrush in your toolkit, or a different palette, for example. He says, however, there are fundamental differences between Art Deco art and AI outputs that preclude viewing these new developments as just another step in the journey of art. While influenced by and at times using the tools created by the industry, Art Deco remained a man-made vision of the world as it was then. Artistic styles are, after all, merely reflections of culture and mind. Ohio, for example, could not now commission or create the Cleveland Guardians of Traffic, which is, I think it's a bridge, if I'm not mistaken, that has some Art Deco styled guardians on each side, as the city of 1932 is not the city of 2022 as much as we would like. In that way, art becomes one of the most important insights into history, and it allows us to see in some mystic ways into the worldviews of people of the past. And here I want to pause, and I just remember, Adrian, something that I overheard. I can't remember what we were talking about, but you were discussing the age of Mary, the triumph of Mary. And you brought up the example, which I thought was hilarious, the example of, well, what do highways look like under the age of Mary? You know?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
what they look like now.
Yeah, it's interesting when we think about these horrific art pieces in the society, or even just like the buildings, these ugly, brutalist architecture, these apartment complexes that just look like they're out of a factory. And you think about, okay, what would these things look like during the reign of Mary? Because during the reign of Mary, we're going to bring back Christian civilization, and our mindset will be geared towards the good, the true, and the beautiful. And so that's going to be reflected in everything we do. So we look at the roads during the Roman Empire, and they built them beautifully. You look at the Roman aqueducts.
They're still around.
And they're still around. They lasted thousands of years, and they're beautiful still. Whereas we build our highways, and we build them to be functional, which, I mean, that's debatable whether or not actually they're functional sometimes. 45 being shut down on my way to work this morning. But we would have to engrave in it some beauty. So maybe they would have, like, on the sides of it, these designs of the holy images of the life of Christ. Mosaics. As you're driving by, mosaics, statues on them, on the highways, these kind of things that we don't think about right now. It's the part of the human creativity of it. And I don't think, it's interesting because I saw those AI artwork as well. And a lot of it is very impressive. But at the same time, there's something that's lacking in it, and I guess that what's lacking in it is the soul. Like, it's not, there's no spirit that's put into it. But at the same time, if you put that picture up to someone and say, is this done by a human or done by a computer? That's scary because you can't really tell.
That's true. Brent, what do you think about artificial intelligence making art? Do you think it's art, or do you think it's just kind of like a pale comparison?
Well, it's discouraging, isn't it, to think that computers intrude more and more on what we used to think of as entirely human creative activity. And the more we see these kinds of things, the more we see that science fiction is becoming science fact. I've been reading about this myself and looked at some of the photos, digitally, of course, on the computer or a phone or iPad or something. So it's all those are all digital representations, but you can't tell most of the time whether it's just an expert photographer or a computer generated image. The one thing that occurs to me as I look at the icons, for example, that we have here in the studio is at least we haven't reached the point where computer intelligence can produce oil paintings. So maybe we'll still be able to go to museums and appreciate the works of the great masters.
You mean the great master robots?
But that's what I'm afraid we're headed toward. But at least for now, at least we can go to the museums and appreciate the works of the great masters.
It blurs the line, right? Like, who is the artist here? Is it the artificial intelligence, or is it the person who created the AI? Like, that's a question for me. Like, if it ever got to the point where it was in a museum, would it actually be the person typing in the prompt?
Well, one of these one of these digitally created images actually did win a big photograph competition.
Really?
Recently.
I remember seeing that.
Yes,
I would be
created
upset.
quite a lot of human photographers were upset.
Yeah, he submitted it. I remember now. The story was some guy, he digitally created it, and then he submitted it without telling anybody that it was generated by AI. And after he won, then he revealed to everyone and goes, see, AI is art.
See,
y'all all just submitted it, that it's art. And and everyone was upset. And now they're discussing, like, what do we do about this? And they don't know.
See, to go back to your point, Adrian, without it having a soul, like, for example, the reason why it would be so upsetting for a photographer to understand that this is actually AI that created a photograph is because as a photographer, like, I have to wake up real early. I have to get up super early to catch the light, there's a lot of variables at play that are outside of my control, whether the clouds are going to be out, whether there's going to be some God rays coming through the clouds, whether it's going to rain, whether the birds are even going to show up. All kinds of different things have to come into play, and there's a sacrifice. I have to wake up early. I have to drive over there. I have to plan my day accordingly so that I can maximize all of these different variables. But with art in artificial intelligence, it's just you type in a prompt and it feels cheap. And I think about the machine. I think the machine tends to cheapen artwork. And you see what happened when mass production became a thing and it took over the garment industry, for example. I ran into an artist the other day, not actually physically, but I ran into something that this artist put out in a video saying that she was really inspired to become a fashion garment producer. And she was taking some really classic courses about how to make proper garments, like good-fitting suits, good-fitting clothing, and that sort of thing. And it disappointed her when she went home and looked and analyzed all of her so-called expensive clothing and realized that it was just mass-produced garbage. And I think about the garment industry. I think about industrial revolution. And I also think about the opposite of that, which is there's this really great documentary. If you type it in on YouTube, you can type in hands and then Irish linen weavers, and you can see what it took in the past for you to create even just a simple piece of linen. And today it's just so art and anything produced, anything that we wear, anything that used to mean something is just mass produced. It's cheap, it's lost its soul, it's soulless. And I think that as we fight to bring back traditional cultural ideas, we also have to bring back the trades. We have to bring back artwork. We have to bring back those trades which are dying. For example, bookbinding. Now everything is digital, so we don't consider the beauty of having a book on your shelf. So we have to bring back those lost trades because they required something. They required the expertise of a person. They required a lot of sacrifice. I'm thinking also of upholstery. Growing up in upholstery shops with my dad, I got to see what it took to reupholster antiques. I mean, actually blood, sweat, and tears. So I think we have to bring back those trades, and we have to really rethink about this new stuff that's coming out. We can't let it just co-opt the language. For example, calling this art, I would say this is more of like something. I wouldn't call it art. What would I call it? I would call it.
It's interesting though, because the one thing that I was thinking about while you were saying that is the idea of homemade has changed significantly. Yeah. So you say something's homemade, it's like, well, I bought the flour from the store, I bought the sugar from the store, I bought the chocolate from the store, and I just mixed it together. It's interesting. Homemade doesn't mean homemade anymore.
That's true. That is so true. Well, we're going to continue discussing this probably in the after show, but if you want to read the article, it's over at Crisis Magazine, and the headline is, Can Artificial Intelligence Produce Art? And right after this break, we're going to have Dr. Joe Pojman from the Texas Alliance for Life. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
This is Dale Ahlquist with a Chesterton Minute. I'm going to do the news. Have you ever heard someone say, the Catholic view of marriage may be an ideal, but it cannot be a reality? Well, G.K. Chesterton says, it is an ideal in a diseased society. It is a reality in a healthy society. For where it is real, it makes society healthy. We know we cannot make a perfectly healthy society because while we believe in marriage and the church, we also believe in something called the fall of man, which also has an effect on society. But the point is that we believe not just in an ideal, but in something practical. Practical in the sense that we want to make something. We want to create Christian families as opposed to those who are always ready to destroy the family, who give up on the ideal and give in to whatever is easiest at the moment. Want more than a minute? Chesterton.org.
Hi, Hi, this is Pam Stenzel. Come participate in the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th in Boston. Men gather outside of the Planned Parenthood on Commonwealth at 11:30 a.m. for the march, and then everyone else show up at the 2 p.m. rally outside of the State House, where I'll be speaking about the need to value and protect every preborn baby from fertilization. For more information, go to themensmarch.com and spread the word.
Welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, keeping you informed and inspired. And now more headlines. Catholic News Agency reports Catholic Church burned and priest and religious sister kidnapped in war-torn Cameroon. Gunmen set a Catholic church on fire and kidnapped 5 priests, 1 religious sister, and 2 lay people in western Cameroon, where a civil war has been raging since 2017. In their statement, the bishops said that the Catholic Church has increasingly been targeted by attackers. They say, quote, a wave of persecutions against the hierarchy of the church is now the new game of the struggle, rather. All kinds of threat messages are sent out against missionaries who have surrendered their lives for work for the people. Read the bishop's statement, which noted that Presbyterian and Baptist churches have also been targeted. About 2/3 of Cameroonians practice Christianity, while 25 to 30% are Muslim. So please pray for that intention there. Please pray for their safety. The Jerusalem Post reports Israeli archaeologists discover once-in-a-lifetime find of ancient pottery under a beach. A team of Israeli archaeologists felt like they had entered the set of an Indiana Jones film, or perhaps DreamWorks' Prince of Egypt, after discovering a burial cave from the time of Pharaoh Ramses II. It's thought to be the Pharaoh from the book of Exodus, containing dozens of intact objects. The cave was uncovered in the Pojman, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Pojman National Park, near one of Israel's most popular beaches. The cave was found by chance when a tractor hit a rock and revealed the cave's opening. Inside was a square room filled with ancient pottery and vessels thought to be of a burial quality for a burial offering. And the Hill reports Hurricane Fiona rips through powerless Puerto Rico. Hurricane Fiona struck Puerto Rico's southwest coast on Sunday as it unleashed landslides, knocked the power grid out, and ripped up asphalt from roads and flung the pieces around. Forecasters said the storm could cause massive flooding and threaten to dump historic levels of rain, with up to 25 inches possible in isolated areas. And those were your headline news this morning. God love you.
Dr. Joe Pojman on to talk about abortion. We're going to talk about abortion advocacy and what we hear in the news and talk about the laws. It might be strange to have a lawyer bringing on a non-lawyer to talk about this, but Joe Pojman is actually a rocket scientist. He gave up his career in the NASA complex to go become a full-time pro-life advocate in Austin, Texas. Good morning, Dr. Pojman.
Good morning, gentlemen.
And, full disclosure, if I accidentally lapse and call Dr. Pojman Joe, I have been working with him for more than 20 years in Austin.
That's true. That's true, Brent. And you made a great impact here in Texas.
Well, you're too kind, but I'll tell you, Dr. Pojman, I'm looking at a National Public Radio website article from an article that they broadcast just on July 3rd and says losing a pregnancy could land you in jail in post-Roe America. And from all I can tell, watching the regular media, women who get pregnant and go get an abortion are going to end up behind bars for the rest of their life. Not to mention that women's lives are at risk because they're going to die from their inability to get an abortion.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that coming true at all. In fact, it's not coming true, and it has never been true. Yeah, so we do have that decision that the Supreme Court handed down on June 24th, Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization, which completely overturned the terrible Roe v. Wade precedent. Okay, so let's look at some of the horror stories that have been predicted when that came down, and one of them is that women are going to be arrested for having a miscarriage because that would be evidence they were actually having an abortion, and they would be guilty for participating in abortion. The problem with that fairy tale are several. Number one, we haven't had any women who have been prosecuted for abortion under any of these laws that have gone into effect since that time. Texas and 12 or 13 other states that have contingency laws that are triggered by the Supreme Court's decision. Texas is one of those. Louisiana, Arkansas, a number of others. They are the women in those states now. Abortion is not permitted. Unborn babies are completely protected from abortion beginning at conception, and we have no reports of any woman being prosecuted for abortion, which all of those laws explicitly exclude a woman from any prosecution for being involved in abortion, even if she is the woman on whom the abortion is performed, or even if she participates in some kind of self-abortion procedure. She cannot be prosecuted under those laws. And I know that very well because here in Texas, and of course, as I said, there are some 13 states, and more states are passing laws to do this, Idaho being another one. They are, those laws, like in Texas, specifically have an exclusion, so a woman can't be prosecuted. Then the question is there going to be some kind of overzealous prosecutor who's going to do that and say, okay, there's evidence of something? It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened, and it's been, 3 months since the Supreme Court did the right thing and overturned Roe versus Wade, but haven't seen that. So I don't think that's happened. It hadn't happened in the past, which I'd like to talk about if you've got a chance, and it's not going to happen going forward.
Well, that point bears repeating that despite what we hear in the popular media, many of these laws, I don't know if all of them do, many of these laws that outlaw abortion explicitly exclude the pregnant woman as even a potential defendant. Another point is, this idea that women are going to die because they can't get an abortion when medical care really calls for it has always been false. Abortion, when it is truly necessary to save the life of a mother, and it is simply, if it's medically necessary, that's always going to be constitutional. And any law that tries to limit that is going to be unconstitutional. There's not going to be any law that says, well, you have to let the mother risk dying in order to save the child. That's not the law. And yet, we see the not just the commentaries out there, not just the op-eds, but actual news organizations like National Public Radio putting out articles and broadcasts such as losing a pregnancy could land you in jail in post-Roe America. And of course, ultimately, this goes back to the predisposition of the media to show one particular viewpoint, and they seem to become increasingly detached from the facts.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, first of all, let's look at what happened before Roe versus Wade, blocked Texas pro-life law, a law that had been on the books since 1854. So we had from 1854 to 1973 in Texas, one state, were women prosecuted for abortion, a woman on whom abortion was performed. Our attorney, our special counsel, a gentleman who lives in Chicago, Paul Linton is his name, former general counsel of Americans United for Life, did a lot of research on this and found that, and he's not the only one, but they have all found that not in Texas had a woman ever been prosecuted for participating in abortion from 1854, the first time the law was passed, to 1973. And the same is true of all other states. No woman had ever been prosecuted for abortion. No one had been convicted. There were one or two, an amazingly small number where prosecution was started and then it was dropped, or, no one was ever prosecuted or convicted, I should say. And that is an amazing fact, considering all the hype about this. So then let's look at 1973 to this year, 2022. And we had some stories out there. There's some law professors who published an article a few years ago claiming there are all kinds of cases of women who were prosecuted and so forth. Paul Linton looked at every one of those cases and found that there were, about 8 cases over a period of, about 16 years. It ended up being about 1 case every 4 years where a woman was prosecuted for something like homicide or homicide of the unborn child, because most states, after Roe versus Wade, do criminalize taking the life of the unborn child in the course of violent crime, like assault or murder of the mother. And can the mother be charged with causing the death of the unborn child? In Texas, we have explicit exclusion. We have the unborn child is recognized as a person in the womb for purposes of homicide and assault, the same as a newborn child cradled in the mother's arms. But the woman cannot be prosecuted, even if she causes the death of the child herself. That's the case in all these other states. So there were a handful of cases, but very, very few, and these law professors were way overhyping this. And now, as we said, post-Dobbs, from June 24th to now, we're just not hearing about these cases. So, yes, a lot of crying wolf, a lot of hyping to try and discredit the pro-life gains, discredit the Supreme Court. But we scratch below the surface, and you don't have to scratch very far, and you see it's a lot of hype and not a whole lot of substance.
All right, Joe, we're going to get ready to take a break, but before we do, I'll point out that before all this hysteria started, as recently as 2015, the Guttmacher Institute, Planned Parenthood's so-called research arm, itself said that women are not commonly charged in the United States for the crime of self-inducing an abortion. So before the hysteria started, they were at least being a little more reasonable with the facts. But now, after Dobbs, it seems like all reason has left the room. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Father Stephen Imperato. Join us in Boston for the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th. Men, we will gather outside the Planned Parenthood to begin the march, and then we're going to meet everyone else for a 2 p.m. rally outside of the State House, where I'll be speaking about constitutional personhood to the preborn and where we need to go from here. For more information, go to themensmarch.com. Again, details, mensmarch.com. Join us and spread the word.
Hello, this is Steve Gleason with your 1-minute tool for Catholic evangelism. Here's the question for your non-Catholic friend. Your only daughter met a fine young man who was a committed Mormon. She now wants to join his church. What's your answer? Well, here's your 3 best friendship tools for Catholic evangelism. Number 1, a reason for no, doctrinal positions such as the deity of Jesus and the Trinity. Your reason for yes, you deem seemingly moral character as superseding biblical truth. Secondly, orthodoxy. Your answer is probably no, but how and why? Your resistance to Mormon doctrine does not just come straight down from the Bible. It comes from the first 5 centuries of brilliant theologians, bishops, and popes. These Catholics wrote, debated, and fought for truth. Example, in 250 AD, 311, and 417, 3 different popes excommunicated 3 different heretics, Sabellius, Arius, and Pelagius. They denied the Trinity, the eternal deity of Jesus, or taught that human effort warranted salvation. Would your pastor excommunicate a heretic? Well, unfortunately, your pastor can only remove someone from his local congregation. But that's okay. That guy will probably end up being welcomed to the church down the street.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Dr. Joe Pojman. Before the break, I was pointing out that before the recent post-Dobbs hysteria, even Planned Parenthood's research institute, Guttmacher, said that women were not commonly charged for the crime of self-inducing an abortion. So how have you dealt with this or confronted this in your work since the decision came down?
That is a great question. Of course, Dobbs is a decision back in June in which the Supreme Court completely overturned the terrible Roe v. Wade precedent and allowed states to pass protective laws like Texas, Arkansas, numbers, Ohio, we hope will do very soon, and so forth. That's the decision that we're referring to, Dobbs. So in that time, we were trying to get ready for media response, and my communications team and I, we were ready with talking points. And I will say we were a little surprised that there would be so much misinformation in some, not all, but some of the media accounts claiming that women are going to be prosecuted. No, they're not, because they're explicit exclusion from women being prosecuted in the Texas law. Well, women are going to be not able to get treatment for ectopic pregnancy. No, the Texas law, and this is the case throughout the country. Susan B. Anthony, Pro-Life America, makes this very clear in some of their publications. It's that state-by-state survey, all the states that have these laws exclude treatment for miscarriage. So those can continue to go on, and that's a case where, if left untreated, that child will certainly die, even and the woman's life is in danger also. So that treatment is clearly permissible under all the states' pro-life laws. How about treatment for miscarriage? Well, miscarriage is when the child dies before born, and when that happens, there's not an abortion even to talk about, because the child has perished, the child has died. So yes, that's clearly permissible. What if the child is in the process of dying, or there's some grave concern that the pregnancy is going to cause severe risk to the mother's very life, or loss of major bodily function? Well, there's an exclusion in all the laws that I have seen that allow an abortion to go on in those cases when the life of the mother is in danger, or there's a severe risk of loss of major bodily function. These are very rare. These are very rare cases, but the things are in there. Now, what might happen? Well, let's suppose there's the woman is in the second trimester, the water breaks. Okay, that means the amniotic fluid leaves. In almost all these cases, the child's going to die because the child has to have amniotic fluid to learn how to breathe and exercise that. So the child's going to die. If the woman doesn't have, if we don't do something, she's going to get an infection, which could lead to mass infection in her entire body, putting her life at risk. Typically, what a pro-life doctor would do is to induce labor. The intent is not to take the life of the child. That child is not being dismembered, or any action to deliberately take the life of the child, but the child is too young to live, has not reached the age of viability. So typically, the doctor induces labor, the baby is born, will die soon afterwards, but the intent was not to take the life of the child. The intent is to save the mother's life, which will happen. She will be consoled to some extent. I mean, this is the loss of the baby, but at least she will have a baby that she hasn't taken responsibility for the death of that baby, and they can grieve the loss of that child, and have a funeral if wanted to, and if they wish, and a burial. But the point is, that is the moral way to handle this type of circumstance. The woman is not; her life can be protected. In classic ethics, this is called the principle of double effects. The action is taken. The intent is to save the life of the mother. The indirect and unintended result is the loss of the child. But this is classic principle of double effects. So the law that all the states around the country that have been passed that protect unborn babies from abortion have this type of exception. So it's frustrating to me to hear some cases where women who have miscarriage, or the baby is in the process of dying, can't get treatment. That's frustrating to me, because there are some doctors out there that claim they don't want to get prosecuted under the new pro-life laws in Texas or other states, but they are just abandoning their patients, and they need to take responsibility for their patients and do what's right. And it's just hard to imagine that in Texas or any other state, that doctor is going to be prosecuted for anything. I mean, right. That's not the law. The language is so clear in these laws, and in fact, it's the very language that was upheld back in 1992. Some of your savvy listeners are going to remember Planned Parenthood v. Casey. The Supreme Court upheld that exception that I described as constitutional.
Well,
so, I don't think there's a really issue here, but it's just being hyped, as you say, Brent.
Well, what you mentioned a moment ago about intent, that's always the critical issue in any criminal prosecution, is whether or not the defendant had the requisite intent. If the doctor's intent was to save the life of the mother, then there's not going to be a criminal prosecution.
That's true. And, I'm wondering, Dr. Pojman, Rudy Carlos here, I'm just questioning whether, the midterms have anything to do with the reason why they're co-opting this sort of language, right? I mean, they're saying, well, if it's an ectopic pregnancy, it's automatically an abortion, or they're equivocating these two things. Do you think that, the Democrats are coming into the midterms really with nothing, and they're trying to make something out of nothing in this case?
Oh, could we? That's a great point. Is it possible that this is being politicized for political reasons, and these patients who are suffering these terrible losses are being exploited by one party or certain elected officials and the media to try to hurt pro-life Republicans or just pro-life candidates? Yes, I think that's really possible, and I think it's despicable, but this kind of thing goes on. And I'm really glad you're bringing up this topic. It's for a lot of people who have suffered miscarriage, it's not pleasant to think about. I mean, you lost that baby. And in some cases, the woman was contemplating possibly losing her own life. This is life and death stuff. This is really tough. But we have got to educate the public about what's really going on. These pro-life laws that have passed, those so-called trigger laws that were triggered, go into effect when Roe was overturned, are fantastic laws. They're great laws, and they are protecting babies' lives. And as I said, here in Texas, which I know so well, where I reside, and I'm in the state's capital, Austin, we've had our law in effect now, our pre-Roe laws, and now our Human Life Protection Act, as it's called, the trigger law, been in effect for now 3 months. We have not heard of a single case of a woman being prosecuted. This is not going to happen. It's not intended to happen by the lawmakers and the governor. It's not going to happen. If it is, it's some rogue district attorney who is going to get there's ways to correct that. I just think this is they're trying to make something out of nothing. They're trying to make hay, and frankly, you see this kind of thing when one party or the other doesn't have enough real issues to talk about, so they try and manufacture this issue and exploit these tragedies in the way it's reprehensible. It's a shame, but we've got the best anecdote for it is shining light on it, as you're doing, gentlemen.
Well, that's an excellent point. A lot of pro-lifers might have originally thought after the Dobbs decision came down that we have won the battle. And in fact, what has happened is the battle, in line with the exact ruling of the court, is it moved from the national level and the focus in Washington, D.C. and the Supreme Court especially, to each of the 50 state capitals and to our local communities. And so now, in many ways, the job of the pro-lifer has become a little more complex. Pro-life advocates need to be better informed now. They need to understand so that when they're faced with just factually incorrect, really non-fact-based arguments, when they're faced with hysteria and irrational arguments, they need to be able to calmly point out the facts, point out what the law is, point out that it's not true that a woman whose life is genuinely in danger can't get an abortion. 2 political activists who are campaigning knocked on my door, 2 women, a few weeks ago. And one of them ended up telling me she was a 60-year-old woman. And she told me that she didn't feel safe now after the Dobbs decision.
They knocked on your door?
They were campaigning.
Wow.
And and to their credit, they wanted to engage me in a real conversation. We talked for about 20 minutes, but in the course of that conversation, as a 60-year-old woman, she says she doesn't feel safe after Dobbs. So part of the response here is just an irrational, just hysterical emotional response, because the idea of abortion has just become so ingrained through the public relations efforts. Let's face it, Planned Parenthood is good at that. They've gotten in the schools. They've infected the curriculum in our schools. They have infected the medical field. And that kind of thinking is out there. And the job of pro-lifers, and not just professionals like Joe Pojman, but of all the pro-lifers who are out there, who might encounter somebody outside an abortion facility, who might engage in a topic of conversation with somebody without any notice at all, just it could happen anywhere. It really helps if you can just know the basic facts. It's the pro-life issue hasn't gone away. It's just become more challenging.
Brent, let me put in clarify for Brent's for your listening audience. Brent, we've known each other and come down, and you've come down and testified in the Texas Capitol a number of times over 20-year period, and I can vouch and say that there's nothing in Brent's demeanor or appearance that would give a 60-year-old woman any cause to be afraid. None whatsoever. So it must have been something irrational.
What about the baby? Did the baby feel unsafe?
Yeah, that's really the ultimate comeback, isn't it?
Yeah.
But for people who want to engage in my idea in talking with people in those situations is try to plant a seed, try to ask a question, often in the form of a question, try to make a point, but often just ask a question that might just stick in their mind. Try to say something that might just sit there in the back of their mind that they just might not admit immediately, but that eventually, if they reflect on it, will bring them around. Joe, we've only got 30 seconds. Any last words for our audience?
Thanks for having me on here. And if anybody's wished to get some of this information on our website here in Texas, TexasAllianceForLife.org, but consult your local pro-life organization in each of your states. I'm sure they've got a similar message. We've got to combat this nonsense with the truth.
Dr. Pojman, we appreciate you being on. Thank you for your work, and we hope we'll be talking to you again in the future. Thanks again.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Hi, this is Sister Dee Dee Burns. Come participate in the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th in Boston. Men, gather outside of the Planned Parenthood on Commonwealth at 11:30 a.m. for the march. Everyone else show up at the 2 p.m. rally outside of the State House, where I'll be speaking about the urgent need to be actively pro-life and pro-eternal life. For more information, go to themensmarch.com and please spread the word.
Hello, this is Steve Gleason with your 1-minute tool for Catholic evangelism. Here's the question for your non-Catholic friend. Can you really say you know what praying the rosary is all about? So here's your 3 best friendship tools for Catholic evangelism. Number 1, listen to the who's who of the rosary. We have the Blessed Trinity. We have the Angel Gabriel. We have the Virgin Mary. We have John the Baptist. And we have Elizabeth. So how's that for a cast of sacred ones? Secondly, reflection. While saying the rosary, we reflect on 20 primary and sacred moments that occur in the lives of the Holy Family. And thirdly, the rosary dynamics. Here's how you involve this cast of holy ones in praying the rosary. You first invoke the 3 persons of the Blessed Trinity. Then, on to praying the Apostles' Creed. Then you will pray in Our Father. Then you will recite the Angel Gabriel's words to Mary. Then you'll recite what Mary said to Elizabeth. And then you will relive John the Baptist being filled with the Holy Spirit in the womb. Then you will ask for Mary's assistance in your life. And I'm so glad to say none of that is idolatry.
Hi, this is Carrie Beatley. Come participate in the next National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood on Saturday, October 15th in Boston. Men, gather outside of the Planned Parenthood on Commonwealth at 11:30 for the march, and everyone else show up at the 2 p.m. rally outside of the State House, where I'll be speaking about how America's abortion king pushed the lie of abortion on the American people. For more information, go to themensmarch.com.
Are you on the CDT Insider email list? Hi, Joe McLean here. And every week I send you cool stuff straight to your inbox, goodies that you're not going to want to miss. Go to grnonline.com/CDT and get signed up today.
God, welcome back to Catholic Drive Time. I'm Rudy Carlos. I'm hosting today. I'm filling in for Joe McLean, who is out canyoneering the Grand Canyon. Now, if you know Joe, you've heard him talk about doing all kinds of different things like skydiving, shark diving, swimming with sharks. I don't know. What do you do with sharks? You just swim with them, right? I think it'd be more exciting if you put chum in the water and then jumped in without a cage. What else does he talk about? He talks about scaling.
Getting a motorcycle.
Scaling buildings, without any parachute cord or anything like that. But anyway, he decided, against all of our wishes, by the way, to go to the Grand Canyon. And he said that he had a dream of being like Evel Knievel. And he is convinced that he can jump across on a motorcycle the Grand Canyon. So that's what he's doing. Hopefully he makes it back on Wednesday. I hope he does. I think you would need a rocket-powered motorcycle to be able to do that, to be honest. What do you think, Brent?
I think you look awfully comfortable in Joe's chair.
It's not a comfortable chair, I got to tell you. It's a very weird chair. There's like spikes on the back just to remind you of penance, and the seat is made out of what do they make? What's the penance cord? It's a hair shirt type material. And so yeah, I'm really uncomfortable. I don't know if it appears the other way, but
I'm following, but I'm not buying. I'm following, but I'm not buying.
It's only the finest that Office Depot has to offer.
It's true. I think most of the furniture in the studio was purchased from. It was, what's the name of that place that it's like sells surplus stuff, oversupply or something like that? Not Rent a Room. It's joining us is also Tito Edwards. He's with us joining us by Zoom. But Overstock, there we go. Overstock, the website. We got a lot of our stuff from Overstock, but we did actually get a lot of the equipment from there was like some
like a liquidation place.
Yeah. So like there was an office that was shutting down, so we got a lot of those from there.
Well, that was a really cool interview, Brent. Thanks for setting that up with Joe Pojman with the Texas Alliance for Life. I understand you guys are good friends.
Well, we met in 2001 when I was testifying in Austin at the Texas State Legislature. I testified for several sessions about parental rights with abortion. I was stunned when I moved to Texas and found out that a teenage girl could get an abortion without her parents' consent.
Wow. Brent, that reminds me of back when I was in California, I took a job in between jobs. So I was working in a school district helping out with assistive technology. And assistive technology, if you don't know what that is finding creative ways using technology to help students who have special needs access their curriculum. So it could be something as simple as helping a young boy organize his life by using the calendar app on an iPad or something. Or it could be as complicated as we had one girl who I think she had cerebral palsy and she couldn't use her hands very well. So we had like 3D printed some tools for her to be able to hold a pencil, for example. So I was working in the school district, and one of the things that was so surprising to me, because you'd have to go in and log in at the main office. One of the schools, the middle school, I would go into the main office, and there was actually in the offices there was resources on the wall. So if a student came in, the person giving the advice would point to the resource wall, and a huge part of it was Planned Parenthood. It would just be like birth control, condoms, and all kinds of different things. And it was really jarring to me. I did not expect that Planned Parenthood would have its tentacles in the schools, but it makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, when they were able to describe abortion and contraception as normal reproductive health care, they were able to put themselves under the mantle of the medical profession, and by default, just good common sense, natural thinking.
Yeah.
Because who is against good health care?
Nobody.
Obviously just, rabid pro-lifers like us who want to put women's lives at stake.
That's true. Well, sorry.
I read that
ahead,
same
Tito.
manual, and I just found out that I'm a 163rd trimester talking fetus. So
that's true.
I'm a bit confused.
Goo goo gaga, as they say.
That's
right?
funny. I'm actually giving a talk at St. Elizabeth Antietam this weekend on objective truth versus relativism. And in my research, I was watching videos of debates on college campuses because I just wanted to get a sample size of people spouting relativistic ideas, and they were like saying things like, when you were in the womb, you were just a nut.
Nope.
And they're like, a nut? Like, where do you
I haven't heard that one.
Where do you get these ideas from?
Yeah, a peanut.
A blob of tissue is what I always heard.
A blob of tissue. You're just a clump of cells.
Yikes.
I've heard that, but I was laughing because I had never heard anyone say that before. Like, you're just a nut. So you're actually just a 157th trimester nut. Walnut.
I knew a very devout Christian woman once, one of the separated brethren, who argued that abortion was okay up until the point of ensoulment. And you'll hear that sometimes.
Yeah.
That would make sense, but we don't know when that happens. Yeah, exactly.
Well, in any case, if you missed that interview, you could listen to it live. Well, you could have listened to it live, but you can do, replay it on grnonline/CDT. But in this hour, we're going to talk with Tito Edwards, and Tito is from bigpulpit.com. You can check out fascinating articles on there. Tito, what's on your agenda today? What's on your mind?
Well, to quote Father Z, when Pope Francis goes on a trip, talks about something, and then signs something, it's always an adventure. What could go wrong?
Especially on the airplane.
Yeah, he was in Kazakhstan, and he signed a document with some other faith leaders, more or less saying that God willed all religions, and the media picked up on that, promoted that, and of course, Catholic reactionaries responded to that, saying that's heresy, which they are accurate, but after it was signed, it was updated to be clarified. So you can just chalk it up to translation issues. But also, even when trying to say it in plain English, it is a fine distinction. What God, you can attenuate two distinct types of will: permissive will and active will. Active will is when God actively wills something, as when he hardened the heart of the Pharaoh when his son died after one of the plagues. Permissive will is allowing human will to go its natural course. So that was a distinction. So there was no heresy that happened over the weekend, but it's just a lot of religion writers in the media journalism sphere just are not up to date on either Catholicism or the Oxford Unabridged English Dictionary. So,
but that's the problem, right, Tito? I mean, it's a problem of optics. So you would think that the Holy Father would understand that this is going to be picked up like a firestorm by the media. And then afterwards, people who are poorly catechized are going to read something like this and understand something completely different than the truth. They're going to say, well, actually, maybe I don't have the responsibility to go to Mass and give worship to God every Sunday. Or maybe, I've been on the way out of the church for a long time, and this is just the little push that I needed to understand, well, maybe I can contemplate the Eastern religions. Maybe I can become a Buddhist and still attain salvation or nirvana or whatever, or happiness at the end of my life. It's a problem of optics.
Yes, it's indifferentism, relativism, and another ism that I can't think of. It's on the tip of my tongue. But all in all, it's just a bit of confusion. And unlike 10 or 20 years ago, we have a robust Catholic media that is able to explain and disseminate the information to Catholics wanting to know exactly what the Pope said. So in the end, it was nothing over nothing, and we need to step up as Catholics and engage those that are not as knowledgeable on our faith and explain to them what was actually signed over there in the capital of Kazakhstan. And we can thank Bishop Athanasius Schneider for getting the ball rolling on getting that corrected, and we'll leave it at that.
Tito, it's interesting because on the Friday the 16th, that's not very far from that same time. There was an apostolic letter that came out from the Holy Father that was talking about reception of Holy Communion. And in it, he said that all that's required is the garment of faith to be admitted to the reception of Holy Communion. And people started reacting and saying, well, this sounds like heresy. This sounds not good. This sounds like the condemnation that fell upon everyone during the Council of Trent, saying that if you say that all that is required is faith alone, then let them be anathema. And the signatories for this, you can check it out at LifeSite News. Among the many signatures, you have Bishop Joseph Strickland of Tyler, Texas, Bishop Gracida from Corpus Christi, Bishop Robert Moutseris from the Netherlands, and then Bishop Athanasius Schneider, among many priests and doctors like the famous Anthony Essalon. There are many of the very recognizable people, John Smirnak. It's very interesting to see the amount of people who were signed off on this, but it was saying that I don't know if you saw it. What are your thoughts on this, Tito Edwards?
Yes, I saw that on Rory Shelley. I linked to that for this morning's post. I have not delved in that deeply, but I just want to know who is the theologian that wrote this for Pope Francis, or if Pope Francis wrote it himself, who was the theologian that advised him on this? And we can many times before, and I'm sure you, Rudy, and Brent can agree with me, that a third-rate or a fourth-rate theologian wrote something that was factually incorrect, poorly written, and dancing on the line of heresy. So I have not read that document, but just looking at all the luminaries on that document, counter document, it seems as if the Vatican bureaucracy got something a bit messed up, and I'm looking forward to seeing an update on that document. But again, what was that? Was that a bull or a motu proprio? What was that again?
Yeah, that's let me see. It was referred to as a letter. So it must not hold much weight. It'd be interesting to see where it falls. I also haven't done a deep dive into it either. But the document it's an apostolic letter, there we go, from LifeSite News says, the apostolic letter Desiderio Desidarvi is not an infallible teaching.
Desiderio
Darvi. That's very important to note, that it's not an infallible document. It is an apostolic letter, so it does have some magisterial weight, but it doesn't have the same magisterial weight of like an encyclical or a dogmatic decree and things like that. So it's important to note.
So one of two things may happen. One, there'll be a clarification in quotes coming out of the Vatican, or this may be a document that can be ignored.
Yeah. I think for the good of your soul, I think you should probably just ignore that document. And this isn't the first time that something like this has happened on this particular topic. Bishop Schneider has actually asked for a correction on this before in the past. So, is it a mistake? I don't know. I'm not so sure. But in any case, thank you so much, Tito, for coming on and keeping us informed about that situation over there. If you want to hang on and play our after show, you can call in, dear listener. You can call in at 1-877-757-9424. Fear and trembling. New prizes are at stake right after this break. 1-877-757-9424.
The Bible clearly says that Jesus had brothers and sisters, but the Catholic Church teaches that Mary was a perpetual virgin. How can that be?
Mark 6, verse 3 says, "Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, and brother of James and Joses and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us?" Point number one to consider. There was no word for cousin or for nephew or for niece, aunt, uncle in ancient Hebrew or Aramaic. The words that the Jews used in all those instances were brother or sister. An example of this can be seen in Genesis 14:14, where Lot, who was Abraham's nephew, is called his brother. Another point to consider, would the last thing that Jesus did on earth be to grievously offend his surviving brothers? Right before Jesus dies, John 19 tells us that Jesus entrusted the care of his mother to the Apostle John. If Mary had any other sons, this would have been an incredible slap in the face to them that the Apostle John was entrusted with the care of their mother. Also, we see from Matthew 27:55 and 56 that the James and Joses mentioned in Mark 6 as the brothers of Jesus are actually the sons of another Mary. And one other passage to consider, Acts 1 verses 14 to 15 speaks of a company of about 120 persons that consist of the apostles, the women, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and his brothers. Now, let's see. There were 11 apostles at the time. Jesus' mother makes 12. The women, probably the same 3 women mentioned at the crucifixion in Matthew 27, but let's say it was maybe a dozen or 2, just for argument's sake. That puts us up to 30 or 40 or so. So that leaves the number of Jesus' brothers at about 80 or 90, according to this scripture passage. Do you think Mary had 80 or 90 children? She would have been in perpetual labor. No, scripture does not contradict the teaching of the Catholic Church about the brothers of Jesus when scripture is interpreted in proper context.
A beacon of truth in a troubled world. This is the Guadalupe Radio Network, radio for your soul.
Welcome to another round of Fear and Trembling, the Catholic trivia game show that helps you work out your salvation by the seat of your pants. It's a 50-50 chance and prizes are involved. Avoid the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Call now to take your shot, 877-757-9424. And now, your host, Joe McClain.
Praise be to Jesus Christ. Just kidding. It's not Joe McClain. This is Rudy Carlos, and welcome to our segment, Fear and Trembling, the Catholic trivia game show where you could win really big. And this week we have a really awesome prize. But if you're just tuning in, this is your first time listening, you're wondering, what exactly is Fear and Trembling? What is this game show? It's a Catholic trivia game show. You don't have to know the answers. You don't have to be an expert in theology. Because what we do here is I'm going to take the place of Joe McClain. I'm going to ask Brent and I'm going to ask Adrian, and one of them is going to give us the correct answer. The other one is going to give us the incorrect answer, and the listener has to decide who is right and who is wrong. And praise be to God, our sponsor this week is the Troops of St. George. Have you ever heard of the Troops of St. George? Well, the Troops of St. George apostolate aims to use the outdoors as their canvas and the sacraments as the path to light the way for the formation of holy Catholic men and boys. Whether called to the vocation of the priesthood, the religious life, or that of holy fatherhood, our fathers and sons will take a prayerful pilgrimage together to fulfill Christ's desire for them to grow in virtue and in their holy Catholic faith as they journey towards heaven. St. George, pray for us. So if you're in the Dallas area and you want to enrich the lives of your boys, make sure to check out troopsofstgeorge.org. And we thank them very much because they have underwritten the game show this week with a custom Italian rosary made out of olive wood and paracord, and a Troops of St. George tumbler and water bottle. So you're going to be completely set. But make sure to check out troopsofstgeorge.org. Thank you very much. Adrian, do we have somebody on the phone right now?
No, we do not have anybody on the phone right now.
Oh,
so
no.
We need someone to call in.
Oh, I would have given the phone number. Oh, well. 1-877-757-9424. Call now if you want to participate in the game show and possibly win this prize. You can go into the Coffee Cup of Divine Providence at least 3 times today. And at the end of the week, we're going to draw a winner, and it might be you. Call right now, 1-877-757-9424. And I just want to say Thanks again, Troops of St. George. I think this is awesome because when I was a young kid, I really, really wanted to be a Boy Scout. However, it was really expensive to join the Scouts, so I never did. But I'm thinking, wow, maybe I can join the Troops of St. George. I don't know. I don't know what the age limit is, but in any case, we're still looking for a caller. You can call now 1-877-757-9424. The phone lines are completely open right now, and Adrian Fonseca can tie you in to play Fear and Trembling, as I mentioned, the Catholic trivia game show. You don't even have to know the answer. You're not going to be embarrassed. You can just call in right now, and I'm going to ask Brent. I'm going to ask Adrian. One of them is going to give us the right answer. One of them is going to give us the wrong answer. All you have to do is decide. You got a 50-50 chance to win this, to get the question right, and the possibility to go into the Coffee Cup of Divine Providence to win the prize this week, which is, I mentioned, was a custom Italian rosary. 100% olive wood and paracord. This thing is so rugged, it is not going to break on you. I would be surprised if that happened. Brent, have you ever had a rosary break on you?
I have had more than one rosary break on me.
Sorry, Brent, you're going to have to turn your mic on there. There's a button in front of you. Well, in any case, we do have a caller on the line. Adrian, who's our caller today?
Carmelo from Midland, Texas. Good morning to you.
Midland.
Yay, Midland.
Let's go. Have you ever been, what's the name of that bakery, Adrian?
Oh, she put me on the spot. I don't remember. You remember?
Bakery, or are you talking about the bakery that makes the fabulous cakes?
We're talking about the bakery that from one of our listeners goes by Master Baker.
Yeah, Master Baker. If you're in the chat, let us know what the name of the bakery is there. But in any case,
that's my tongue, but yeah, he's got the greatest cakes.
Oh, so you have been there?
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Everybody's been there.
Fantastic.
Everybody has been there.
There you go.
Hey,
and the best wedding cakes, best cookies that you can buy. Heck yeah.
Nice. So listen, I haven't personally been to Midland, but is it true that you could lose your dog and you could see it walking the day after?
Gosh, I don't know what that means.
Like the land is so flat.
So flat. You see your dog
you
running away from you for 3 days.
Running away for 3 days.
Yeah, that's possible.
Well, Carmelo, have you played before? Are you ready to play?
Yeah, I played before, so.
So you know the rules.
I can tell you why you guys hadn't got no callers, because you didn't announce what the gift is. That's why.
Oh, wow.
No, we're going to call unless you give us gifts first.
Oh,
I don't care. I just want to play.
Oh, the gift is participating with us. But in any case, let's get started here.
Really?
I'm going to start with Brent Haynes here, and I'm going to ask you, Brent, what famous Catholic Italian physician originated a revolutionary method of educating young children at the beginning of the 20th century?
You know, at first I have no idea, but the only educational system for young children I'm even aware of is Montessori. So was Montessori a Catholic doctor? I'll go with Montessori.
All right. Brent's going to go with Montessori. Adrian, I'm going to ask you now, what famous Catholic Italian physician originated a revolutionary method of educating young children at the beginning of the 20th century?
Yeah, that was John Dewey, and that's why we used him for the entirety of the American school system.
Did you say Bowie?
John Dewey.
Dewey. Mm-hmm. Dewey.
Like the Dewey Decimal System?
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right, Carmelo, you got options here. Brent says Maria Montessori, and Adrian says Mr. Dewey. I don't know his first name.
John.
Carmelo?
Well, I want to say Adrian, but I'm going to go with Brent because, he's Brent. So.
Sources say Very good. Carmelo, you are in one time here in the Coffee Cup of Divine Providence. And let's just chug along here. Question 2. A vessel contains holy water. What do you call it? Brent, what do you say?
The vessel that contains holy water is called a sacred ciotola. That's Italian for bowl. It comes from the Italian. It goes back. It goes way back to Italy in the early days.
That kind of makes sense. The early days. Okay, Adrian, what do you call a vessel that contains holy water?
Ah, yes, that's called a stoop.
Oh, like the place where I sit? in front of my house?
It does, in fact, have a resemblance, but it's a stoop.
Adrian's he sounds very confident.
He does, doesn't he? Carmelo, what do you think about Adrian's answer? Is it a stoop, or is it, as Brent says, a ciatella? Is that what you said? Ciatella? Ciatola. Carmelo, what do you say?
I'm confident. Not Adrian.
Not Adrian. Are you sure?
Let's go. Sure.
Gotcha. Carmelo. Believe it or not, it's a stoop. I had no idea. Okay. I think we all kind of learned something here today.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was called either.
Next time you go into Mass, just look out for the stoop.
Yeah,
point it out and say, oh, the stoop's over there.
Yeah, he's like, where's the holy water? Oh, yeah, go to the stoop's over there. Yeah. Tell your family on Sunday, hey, make sure you go to the stoop. And they'll be very confused.
Carmelo, now question number 3. This is a make it or break it moment. You're going to go into the coffee cup 2 times here. But I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask Brent, going back to Brent, what is the Latin word for master?
The Latin word for master is maestro, and you still see that used in places today like symphony orchestras where their maestro is in charge of the symphony orchestra.
Fascinating. Do you play any instruments, Brent?
No, my talent for music lies in my appreciation of it.
I should have told myself that when I picked up a harmonica this weekend at a yard sale. But anyways, Adrian, what is the Latin word for master?
Okay. Well, maestro, I'm pretty sure is English, so I'm going to go with dominus.
Dominus vobiscum, as they say.
It could be Lord or master.
Carmelo, you have options here. Is it dominus, as Adrian says, or is it maestro, as Brent says?
I'm at a loss. I'm not sure.
What is the Latin word for master?
I'm going to go with Adrian.
Wow, you sound depressed to say Adrian. You're like, I'm gonna go with Adrian. Eeyore. But
is that right?
I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
You got it. Let's go. Carmelo.
He's like, I guess so.
Carmelo, my man, do you play any instruments yourself?
Well, I have 4 thumbs, so no.
Oh, okay.
4 thumbs. I sing really well in the shower.
Yeah, so, I'm there with you.
Well, in any case, you're in the coffee cup of divine providence 2 times, not 1, but 2 times. So you may win this awesome prize pack. I'm just going to spiel it right now for tomorrow, just in case people need to know what the prize is tomorrow. You want to call in. We're going to give out a prize pack from the Troops of St. George, custom Italian rosary, and a tumbler and a water bottle, all branded with the Troops of St. George regalia on there. Thank you so much, Carmelo. Hold on the line. We're going to get your name and your information, and if it's God's holy will that we draw you out of the Coffee Cup of Divine Providence, well, you're going to win that prize. We'll see. In any case, that's going to do it for our hour this hour, and we thank you so much for tuning into Catholic Drive Time. If you want to listen to the rerun of this, make sure to go to grnonline.com/CDT, and if, for example, you were in front of your computer and you want to jump into our social network feeds, jump in now. We're going to have our after show where we're going to loosen up our tie, let our hair down a little bit, and talk about all kinds of different things. In any case, God bless you and Mary keep you. We will see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us on Your Catholic Drive Time, where it is our pleasure to keep you informed and inspired.
Join us Monday through Friday at the same time, right here on your favorite Catholic radio station.
Don't forget to connect with us. Just go to facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Again, that's facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Be sure to share more than just us today. Share Jesus with everyone you meet.
Bye now, and God love you.
And welcome back to Catholic Drive Time, the after show edition. I know Jay Koch was telling me last week, he's like, I'm not really a listener of the show. I'm more of a after show kind of guy, so I kind of leave it running, but I really wait to pay attention to the after show. So if you are an after show person, let us know which part of the show is your favorite. Is it the game show? Is it the interviews? Is it the What's Concerning Us section, Gospel of the Day, Saint of the Day, or is it the after show? Let us know. I'm very curious to know what your favorite part of the show is. And Brent, what's your favorite part of the show?
You know, I hate to...
He's like, none of it. I hate the whole thing.
I hate to say I like the whole thing, but there are some, and I'm not saying this because I participate in them, but you all really do get some good interviews. I really like that discussion about Padre Pio in the movie that you all had recently.
Yeah, it was a good conversation. Me and my mom, because I had mentioned, now she's going to be upset again. I had mentioned on that day that I was like, you know, I love Padre Pio. He's my patron. He's my confirmation saint. But I had mentioned, you know, if I had known who St. Vincent Ferrer was when I was a kid, I would have chosen St. Vincent Ferrer as my patron instead. And my mom was like, oh, you can't say that. Padre Pio would be so upset. And I'm like, it'll be okay. Padre Pio gets it. He understands. St. Vincent Ferrer is just the coolest guy ever. But yeah. Who's your patron?
St. Maximilian Kolbe.
Really?
Yeah. And because I'm a convert, and I converted 17 years ago, going through and choosing, you know, who was going to be my confirmation saint or patron saint was a really enjoyable part of the process for me.
Really?
Because, you know, the Anglican Church, you know, it has the saints, but, you know, it's not the same. And so I got to learn about a lot of saints that I didn't know about. And let's face it, there are a lot of good choices. I mean, you can't go wrong with a saint. But it was really enjoyable for me. And
praise be to God.
But I ended up with choosing St. Maximilian Kolbe.
Well, we both ended up choosing Franciscans, so there you go.
Oh, you're talking about
patron saints?
Patron saints?
Yes, sir.
I took on St. Therese of Lisieux.
Really? They let you do that?
Yeah.
As your confirmation saint?
You know, when I did confirmation, I did it as a kid. So, like...
They let you choose a girl?
Well, here's the thing. So I was confirmed before I received Holy Communion, like the old school way in Mexico.
Okay.
And so they didn't ask me.
Oh.
And so later on in life, I just decided to take her on.
Oh.
And
well,
in any case, let's see. Let's go through here and just
Jeff said
a couple shout outs.
Good job, Rudy, for doing Joe's part.
Oh, thanks,
that
Jeff.
Says, sorry, that was Sienna.
Oh, Sienna.
Genevieve
Thank you so much.
Says, my birthday is in 11 days.
Let's go.
Really good at the game show, Adrian. Thank you very much, Genevieve. I very much appreciate it. And happy birthday in 11 days. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. We're going to celebrate here for you.
By the way,
Jonah says, Adrian, what did you do on your vacation? Go ahead.
By the way, Jeff, thank you so much for volunteering for the SHREWD. Appreciate you, brother. What did you do for your birthday? For your vacation, I mean.
Yes. So Jay Coke said, is Adrian married now? That's what I did on my vacation. I got married. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I just went and got married. No big deal. Whatever. It just happened. No, I'm just kidding.
Then he got divorced.
Then I got divorced, and now I'm back. I got annulment. Don't worry. No, I'm just kidding. No, that didn't happen. That's slander. Anyway, on my vacation, I went to the Clear Creek Abbey in Oklahoma. So I spent a week, 6 days, and Clear Creek Abbey in Oklahoma. And so it was really nice, very peaceful, very quiet, and very meditative, lots of prayer, lots of reading. Books. Oh, I read so many books. I read 5 books cover to cover. And I read a total of like 12 books in terms of just like things that we're perusing.
Wow.
So it was really good. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it very much. And I was very prayerful, very spiritual. So very enjoyed it.
Speaking of reading, let's see here. Tammy Mabry, good morning to you. Paul Wasik, good morning. Yvonne Steyer, good morning to you. Always good to have you here. Becky Dominguez, Jay Koch, our friend, our court jester. Appreciate you, brother. He's typing out a script here on YouTube about a movie starring the Catholic Drive Time team. Paul Wasik, good morning to you. Regina Dennis. And who else do we have here? We have Alberto Ascari, our friend from across the pond. Alberto, what kind of tea you're drinking today? I'd like to know. Let's see. I think that's going to be it for YouTube. Oh, no, we have Brooks Durham. Brooks, how are you, brother? And here on Odyssey, we have Nick the Mike. Good morning to you, Nick, and his beloved Nelia. Good morning. Sci-Fi Mike is here, and looks like the brick wall is not here yet. He's probably at work. And over on Rumble, we have Gunslinger Z19. Good morning to you, our friend Damon there. Let's see here. We have Zero BKR, our friend from Germany. Guten Tag, and good morning to you, brother. Kendrickson and Doug, good morning to you all. We have MT Spiel, good morning. I think that's going to do it for that. I don't have Facebook, so I'm not sure who's on Facebook.
We have
and Eric Rodriguez. Good morning.
Eric, good morning, Eric. On Facebook, Buddy says, I like the after show. Good morning, Buddy. I was asking while you were gone, Rudy, asked people what their favorite part of the show was. Michelle Vaughn, good morning to you. She was commenting about the AI stuff. She said that the AI winning art contest and then the folks learning it was an AI is like biological male playing in women's sports as a transgender. That's a good point. That's a good analogy. I'm going to steal that, actually. June Yarbara, good morning, June. June and Isabel, his wife. And Lori, good morning. Lori's always on. Thank you very much, Lori, for being a faithful listener and for helping out with the call center in Houston and for donating a considerable amount of money. So thank you very much, Lori, and your mother. Your mother also donated. Jesus Robles says his favorite part of the show is before, during, and after. Well, there you go, Jesus. Thank you very much. He knows it. He knows it. ES Giselle, good morning to you. And let's see, Elsa Hinhosa, are you a new listener, Elsa? Good morning to you. If you are a new listener, well then let us know where you're calling from or where you're messaging from. But we give a special welcome to those who are new listeners, and that would be look, it worked. The right button. There you go. Who would have guessed it? So good morning to you, Elsa. Gloria Lopez, good morning to you. Good morning. And I think I covered everybody. If you are a new listener, let us know. And if we missed you, let us know. We'd like to say good morning to you. And yes, Lori said, thank you, Adrian, for telling the joke right. Yeah, he's talking about the dog running away. It's like, yeah, it's a...
Dang it.
It's like, is it true that in Midland, when your dog runs away, you can see him running away for the next 3 days? And there you go. No big deal.
Midland.
The flat Earths. Jay Koch says, can AI eventually replace the CDT show? Well, a trained monkey could. So
believe it or not,
there you go.
We're not actually real people. Have you ever seen us in real life?
Some of them have.
It was a hologram, just like Tupac.
Yes. Glad to help us. Hey, SHREWD, Rudy. It's great fellowship, says Jeff Burrier.
Nice. Yeah, it is. The thing I enjoy very much about SHREWD is coming in and seeing all the bright, smiling faces. But that's pale in comparison to all the snacks, cookies, lunch, Chick-fil-A, all kinds of delicious, sumptuous foods. Just kidding. Obviously, it's the people. I enjoy seeing the volunteers. So thank you very much for all the people who volunteered who may be listening right now.
Amen. Brooke said, Adrian did the Britney Spears marriage drive-through in Vegas. It's funny. I was watching the Canelo versus Gary Golovkin fight on Friday or Saturday. Yeah, it was Gary Golovkin fight. And we were watching that on Saturday, but it was in Vegas, and so we were talking about Vegas. And me and my buddies were just watching it, and we're chatting about it, and we're like, I would never go to Vegas. Like, it's
Who won?
It's horrible. Oh, easily Canelo. They actually put it in pretty close in terms of the scorecards. It was not close. Canelo destroyed him. It was no chance.
I think boxing is rigged. I think they let him win because it was Mexican Independence weekend.
Nah.
100%.
He definitely chose the date.
The script was leaked by Jay Koch, and Canelo won because of Mexican Independence Day.
Well, it was Mexican Independence Day, and that's the date that Canelo chose for it because he has all the bargaining chips because he's the headliner. So he negotiated the price. He got paid more. He picked the date, those kind of things. But, I mean, it's just really, in all honesty, really was not a fair fight. Golovkin's past his prime by a long shot. He's 41 years old, whereas Canelo is in his prime. He's 31. And so it's just, it's not a fair fight. Whenever you saw their second fight, Canelo was actually not quite in his prime yet. He was a little bit younger. He was about to be in his prime, and Golovkin was in his prime. and that was an amazing fight. So it just was not the same. Golovkin's he was slower. He's less.
He goes by Triple G, right?
Yeah, he goes by Triple G.
Triple G.
His middle name is like his last name is Golovkin. So his first name is Gennady. His middle name is like similar. It's like Gennadovkin or something like that. It's something like sounds almost the same as his first name. It's kind of weird. He's from
two
Kazakhstan.
First names.
He's from Kazakhstan, right next door neighbors to our buddy Bishop Athanasius Snyder.
That's his cousin, actually.
Yeah, probably. He was actually trained boxing by the Soviets.
Oh wow!
Triple G was, and I was watching a documentary on the fight, and they're talking about how the Soviets were just like about perfection in boxing in terms of their fundamentals, but they never allowed them any freedom to develop anything else. And so the Soviet fighters were excellent leading up to the Olympics. But then once you got past that and got to the pros, they all lost because they were perfect at doing the fundamentals. But if someone was doing something different, they just didn't know what to do and they would lose.
They were like robots.
They were like robots, yeah. And
like
so Triple G came to the U.S. and he was trained by a Mexican trainer, and he developed the Mexican style of boxing.
And that Mexican was me.
Right.
Brent, do you watch boxing? Any sports?
Actually, I watched a documentary on Muhammad Ali last night.
Really?
I admire the martial arts, the historical martial arts. I trained in some martial arts when I was younger.
Tai Chi?
No, real martial. I mean, I have nothing against Tai Chi.
Except it's pagan.
But
Isn't it pagan? Yeah.
I could give a little disputation on the types of martial arts parents should enroll their children in the right order and techniques and the differences and everything. But I never got into the MMA.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of a lot of the Eastern martial arts. I think most of them are whack. Karate, Kung Fu, they don't work.
All right, well, you and I will have to visit outside in the alley afterwards.
I think boxing.
I would love to see that, actually. That would be hilarious.
I think I would be the one who has passed my prime at that
point. Yeah, boxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling. Those are the things I would recommend.
Jiu-Jitsu.
What about wrestling?
Wrestling? Yeah, that's what we called it in school.
Jiu-Jitsu is a superb self-defense martial art.
Yep.
And I'm talking especially Japanese jiu-jitsu. There's a young man from my parish who is a black belt in that. And actually, we were opening a new Catholic high school, just opened, and they're starting a martial arts team.
That's cool. That's awesome. They should get
the way our society is going, they're going to need it.
They should get Taylor Marshall to be the coach.
That's funny.
I think he does.
Trent Horn. Get Trent Horn.
Does Trent do that?
Yeah, Trent Horn does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Does Taylor Marshall do?
Yeah, they both do.
Yeah. Does Taylor Marshall train with Chuck Norris?
I don't know.
I think
doubt
he
does
it.
Gracie
Chuck Norris doesn't do.
No, I'm just kidding.
Is it all Gracie, by the way? I don't know.
No. Well, I don't know what Marshall does, but Gracie is the most popular form. Is the
It is.
He created a bunch of gyms.
It is very hard to find a traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu school. I know because I've looked.
Speaking of Japanese martial arts, there was always this martial arts studio in my hometown that it just always caught my eye. We would drive by it all the time, and it was so cool. They looked like Cistercians. They had these black and white kind of like karate outfits. But it was called Aikido.
Yeah, Aikido.
Oh, that's so whack.
And I wanted to do it so badly, and then I looked into it, and I was like, never mind. I don't want to do it.
Oh, man. I was watching this guy who's an Aikido master try to fight, like, basic kickboxers.
It seems more ceremonial than
anything.
Well, first of all, studying, especially for children, but studying any martial arts system is good because it helps, especially children, helps them develop a sense of self-confidence. But knowing any system of fighting is better than knowing nothing. Now,
I don't know.
Fighting doesn't come naturally to everybody, and it's good with the proper moral virtues instilled in young children and hopefully into adulthood.
Yeah.
It's good. It is good to know how to defend yourself, and the way our criminal laws and criminal justice reform is going on in society, we're all going to need to know that pretty soon.
Yeah,
but
I'm an adept in gun fu, actually.
Hey, preaching to the choir. But when I was studying briefly Japanese jiu-jitsu, there was also an Aikido instructor who had an Aikido class that was at the same place, actually the Jewish Community Center. So it was a big cultural melting pot.
Wow.
And admittedly, the instructor, the master instructor and the senior instructors would sort of give a hard time to the Aikido people, but they told the story that they asked the Aikido instructor once, who was obviously, a young, fit, capable practitioner. They asked him, when it really gets down to it, how do you defend yourself? And the Aikido instructor confessed, I know some jiu-jitsu.
Wait, okay, so you were at the Jewish Cultural Center.
Community Center.
Was it jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu?
I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that,
That's
Rudy.
funny. That's good stuff.
I think
right
jiu-jitsu is.
I'm thinking,
what do they call that? Krav Maga.
Krav Maga. Nah,
Krav Maga.
I'm not a fan.
That's some serious stuff too.
My wife hurt her shoulder doing Krav Maga.
Yeah, no, that's some serious stuff.
I think some martial arts is actually worse for you than doing no martial arts. I think because then it gives you a false sense of confidence. Because then you're confident in yourself, but then you actually can't do anything, and so you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're going to get hurt.
Well, that's true if you have the wrong attitude and if you don't have humility.
Sure, and then also it also teaches you bad habits. And then you have to break your bad habits to learn real fighting. So if I had kids and I would be putting them in martial arts, I'd be doing, I'd probably put them in wrestling and boxing, and those two.
I'd follow a similar path. I would start children with judo. A lot of people might not realize the difference between the Do arts and the Su arts. The Su arts are the more warrior combat type arts. These are where you learn to break joints. You go against the natural bend, for example, of the elbow or the knee. Do arts were invented as a type of sport. This is why we have judo in the Olympics and not jiu-jitsu. And so with judo, children can learn a very practical wrestling type of art, because that's basically what judo is. But as they got older, I would put them into Wing Chun, which is the original, which is a striking art. There are two basic types of arts, really. There's striking arts and grappling arts. And you all might remember Bruce Lee. Right. I don't know, maybe you don't. Bruce Lee was
the movie Ip Man?
Yes.
There's a whole series
that
of
is
movies.
Exactly right. That's right. So Bruce Lee, although he became famous for creating Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee grew up and learned and mastered and became famous using Wing Chun. And Wing Chun is also the art where they do what's called sticking hands, where they'll put blindfolds on and put their arms and wrists together and try to hit each other. The idea is that you learn to develop the sensation of feeling where your opponent's arm is moving. And once you develop that, it becomes very instinctual, and you maintain contact. So I would start children with a safer form, such as such as judo, not jiu-jitsu, or wrestling, as Adrian was saying, and then move into some sort of striking art later.
Yeah,
interesting.
Well, look, I don't want to get controversial here, but Joe's not here, so we can. And I just want to ask: flat Earth, is it real, fake? Because
Midland proves it.
Exactly. Sci-Fi Mike says Midland, Texas proves the flat Earth theory.
Well, Jay Koch, I have to disagree with you. Jay Koch said, I know nuns learn how to use rulers as weapons. Well, it's not actually true. Nuns are actually proficient in nunchucks.
That's true.
Maybe it's both.
Maybe it's both. It's
Brooks
true.
Durham says, I watch Dragon Ball Z. I'm pretty well versed in martial arts. Brooks, I gotta ask you a serious question. All right, so I see grown men with Dragon Ball stuff on their cars. I see even cars here, like trucks with like anime stuff on it.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Brooks, what's the deal with Dragon Ball? Why is there such a cult following with this TV show?
Can somebody tell me what Dragon Ball is?
Some anime.
It's some like cartoon show. I'm gonna get hate mail calling it a cartoon. It's a cartoon, guys. Come on. It's maybe Japanese animation, right? But whatever.
It's cartoon.
Well, cartoons aren't necessarily bad, but so it's anime.
It's
all right. It's anime.
Yeah, it's for kids. I never watched it. We never watched anime growing up.
Brent, are you an anime fan?
No, I don't. I mean, I know what it is. I know the people who are.
Jesus said, I'm 42, and my old 23-year-old Adrian. I'm 24, sir. Excuse me. 42 is a new 25, says Jesus Robles. Well, okay. So being when I say being old, I mean old for a boxer. Same thing like when you're thinking like football players. Football players, whenever they get to a certain age, you're like, well, you can't really be a football player anymore. Your body's not built the same way. And same thing with boxing. Now, you do have people who fought into their like 50s, which is like, what are you doing? But they say that power is the last thing to leave you. So a lot of them, when they hit 40, they change their tactics. And you saw that with Guadalupe on Saturday. If you watched the fight,
he changed to a dough form.
He changed to a more try to evade versus Golovkin was your classic Mexican fighter, even though he was from Kazakhstan.
Heavy hitter.
He would stand in the center of the ring and just trade blows with you, and it was really impressive to watch. And this fight, he was trying to get away. He was not trying to trade blows with Canelo. But his punches, when you saw it land, they say power is the last thing to leave you, and he pretty much proved that again today. But that's pretty much accepted. So yeah, I don't mean like being 40 is old. I mean being 40 is old for a fighter. It's very old for a fighter.
Well, what did you say? 42 is the new 25?
That's what he said.
Well, I'm here to tell you 60 is the new 57.
Well, that's only 3 years, my friend.
I feel 60 after everybody's taking vacation. I'm just kidding.
Lori says, I thought Cinco de Mayo was Mexican Independence Day. No, Cinco de Mayo
is not.
Is not a real holiday.
It's like it's
an American holiday.
Celebration of the great Mexican victory of the French, right?
That's the one. Yeah, it's a battle victory day. Have you all ever had menudo?
Menudo?
No.
I don't like it.
To be honest with you,
it
grosses me out. It's got like tripe in it, like stomach stuff.
It reminds me of the Scottish dish. What is it? Haggis. Haggis.
It's gross.
I'm not a fan.
So, J. Coke, I'm not sure we can answer your question, but I would imagine it does come with hominy. Actually, no. You know what does come with hominy is, what's the other one? It's, dang it. If my mom's listening to me right now, she's going to be so mad. It's called pozole. There we go. Pozole has hominy in it.
I'm just not a fan of menudo in general, so.
Yeah, I think it's gross.
Yeah, sorry.
I think it's gnarly.
Jay Coke says, what martial arts does the CDT team know? Well, I did karate when I was a kid, and I became a green belt, and I think karate is a useless martial art. I won a ton of competitions. I got a ton of trophies. Green. But no, I don't think it's a great martial art. Then I took boxing, and in high school, my dad put my brother and I in boxing for a little while. And I think that's it. I think that's the only thing I did. And Joe, he did boxing when he was in the military. I don't know if he learned anything else. I think he did some other weird Eastern martial art. We'll have to ask him when he comes back, whenever he was younger. But and then obviously he was in the Marines, so they learned hand-to-hand combat in the Marines. What about
y'all? So back when I was in middle school, I had the biggest crush on this girl from down the street, and she was so into jiu-jitsu. It was like insane, and I considered doing it just to impress her, but I never did it. However, she did teach me, like, not actually teach me, but she showed me how to do an armbar, so I know how to do an armbar, and that's as much as I know.
There you go. Oh, I did jiu-jitsu briefly. Oh, you know what? I lied. I took Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu briefly, but I didn't like jiu-jitsu because I didn't like rolling around with a bunch of sweaty guys.
So you're talking about Brazilian jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And then I did Muay Thai, and I really liked Muay Thai, but the gym wanted me to...
God bless you.
The gym wanted me to pay for like this ridiculous package that was going to be like, you can literally never leave, and if you want to leave, you have to pay like $300 in order to stop coming to the gym. And I was like, what? No, I'm not doing that. I'm out.
Pretty sure that's not legal, but anyway.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm not doing that. So I was like, screw this. I'm just not going
extortion.
To. It really is. So I was like, I guess I'm just not going to learn Muay Thai. So I was there I went because they had a week-long lessons, and I was like, I'm not really sure. So let me come for another week. So I went and did Muay Thai for 2 weeks. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot, and I would have continued doing it, but I was like, I'm not paying for that. That's ridiculous.
It's a little on the nose, too, you know, the name. Thai, Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yummy. Thai food. But
Thai food is good.
Thai is super cool.
That's my exception to Asian food. I really don't like Asian food at all. But I do enjoy Thai food because it's really spicy, and then it makes you sweat and makes you feel like you're going to have an anxiety attack after you're done. And you're just like, I don't know.
So you eat really Thai food for penance?
That could be. Could be a good penance.
Our buddy from Germany, Zero BKR, says, in German, there is a joke that the North is so flat that you know on Friday who's coming for coffee and cake on Sunday afternoon. There you go. You just look over. Oh, they'll be here, judging by how small they look, probably by Sunday.
Brooks, I love adobo, man. So good. Have you ever had adobo? No?
No, I don't even recognize adobo.
I don't know what that is.
Man,
and look, I spent a summer in Spain, so, you know, I've been exposed to some of these things, but I haven't been to Mexico yet.
Adobo, I think, is Filipino. I'm not sure. I think it is. It could be Mexican, too.
Lou said, my favorite part of the show are the beginning and the after show. There you go. So they like the gospel they say of the day, the intro, and then they like and Luce likes the after show.
I think tomorrow I'll just come in and say intro Ibo at Atari Day.
You know, that used to be my the introduction to my podcast. I had my buddy Max. He chanted the intro Ibo, and so that was the introduction to my podcast for a long time. But then I lost the file, so.
I was afraid they were going to say their favorite part of the show was the beginning and the end. They were trying to send a message.
It's like, I liked it when you started, then I hated it, and then y'all ended. And I was like, finally.
You started really strong, but then you goofed it. Sorry.
You know, I always like to say, whenever I give a talk, I always tell people, I'm like, okay, so at least everybody can say that I started well. Let's start in prayer. and then at the very end, I tell them, okay, so everybody can say I ended well. Let's end in prayer.
That's pretty good. I might borrow that sometime.
You're welcome.
Good.
Feel free to have it.
Brent, you're having a gala sometime soon, right? For your pro-life
Thursday,
organization?
October 6th, for people in the greater Houston area. We have a crisis pregnancy center in Texas City that helps some of the truly neediest women in almost any kind of community. And we had a hard time during COVID. Basically, we were shut down. We weren't able to keep operations going quite as much as we would have liked, but we have a new executive director. And we have an event October 6th at the Mainland City Center in Texas City.
And I will be there, apparently. I have no choice.
You have to get
You have to be there. And people can find out information by looking up the Crisis Pregnancy and Support Center of Texas City. That's the Crisis Pregnancy and Support Center in Texas City, Texas.
Nice. We're actually auctioning off Adrian. All proceeds go to the
You're welcome.
The pro-life organization. So if you want to go on a date with Adrian, we're taking bets right now.
Thank you.
I'm taking a 10% cut of whatever we make.
Well, I'll tell you, we need to raise some money, so you might be onto something.
Sci-Fi Mike says, nothing beats the after show. The extended interview portion has been a great improvement. The whole new format, really. Nice. And Nick the Mike, this is what I was laughing at. I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at Nick. He said, the carnivore diet has really changed Joe. It's like,
I missed that. That's hilarious. Oh, man. Good times. You know, this was the first time that I was like not nervous to come in and fill in, because it's a lot of moving parts. But like, honestly, I think it's more moving parts producing rather than hosting. Because I think with hosting, you know, there's two schools of thought, right? Like Joe is very like off the cuff. He can just like think things out and just say them. I usually like think about what I want to give as a takeaway and I write everything down. So I have some points that I'm looking at and referencing while I'm doing that. So when I have that, I'm confident. But if you told me you can't have your notes, I would probably be sweating bullets. It's over. Genuinely over. And anyway, so now that I've usurped Joe's position, I think Joe might have a little accident in the Grand Canyon.
There you go, folks.
I don't know if he's coming back, everybody.
And Jay Koch says, Brent, why are 60-year-old women knocking on your door wanting to talk reproduction with you? We are curious.
Yeah, you know, the amusing thing was I didn't have my eyeglasses on. and I couldn't really see them very well.
But you could see that they had pink hair.
Well, I made a comment about them basically being young and not remembering the inflation from the Carter era, which, you all read about maybe in the history books or you hear about in certain political advertisements, but I lived through that.
Oh, wow.
And this one woman, she's like, well, I'm 60. And I was like, well...
same, bro.
I admit, if you compliment them on their appearance, then you're a sexist, of course.
True. So you got to tell them they're ugly.
I'll tell you, though, they're out there working. They're working, man. They talk to me for
they have
20.
Some zeal, huh?
They have some zeal. Nobody from the other side's knocked on my door.
That's true. Well, that's what I've been saying. I've been talking about that. But Jay Koch says, we are auctioning Adrian. If I win Adrian, I'm going to have him do house chores and sing Gregorian chant while he does it.
There you go. Actually, that's a good idea. That's the way we'll bill it. That's the way we'll bill it.
Y'all put an idea in his head.
You bid on your man Friday, who will perform your house chores on a Saturday, singing Gregorian chant.
There you go. It won't be good, neither of those things, but it'll happen.
Well, in any case, God bless you all. May He keep you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Catholic Drive Time. We're going to be back here tomorrow. Same old time, same gang here. And please pray for Joe and his sons to get home safely. And that they have a great time out there. It's a good time to be a dad. So thank you very much. God bless you. May He keep you again. Catholic Drive Time is going to be signing off.
Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is my friend. Jesus is a friend of mine. I have a friend in Jesus. Jesus is a friend of mine. Jesus is my friend. Jesus is a friend of mine. God don't do it, it won't get done. If God don't do it, it won't be. What up with that? What up with that? What up with that? Yeah, but your scientist was okay.
Come on, man. What are we talking about?
Go, Brandon. I agree. Hey.